What's up, y'all? My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. Today is the 8th of November. A little clarification, any videos that I made on what I said is the 6th of November, 2025, that was yesterday, it was actually the 7th, okay? But, yes, I'm the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, Evan Strong is my name. This video is titled, Where Grip Strength Comes From, okay? What we do here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, one of our 4 sides to us, right? There's 4 sides to In the Image Clothing Company as a whole. Here, we allow the human body to work. The human body has a centered line, the sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and our jaw. The body is placed on Earth's gravity, and Earth has a center of gravity, okay? The jaw naturally stabilizes our entire body, and all of these things in the center need to stay in the center of our bodies over Earth's center of gravity. Now, we talk about everything though. Eating, sleeping, standing, walking, sitting, breathing, hydration, everything we do as a human being. We do the same thing on another one of our 4, but for dogs. In the Image Clothing Company Poodles, we let dogs stay natural and give information that applies to all dogs. So, allowing the body to work, what we do here on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, it comes through the back end, right? Not restricting the body, and it'll just work. Designed in the image of God, our bodies are just designed to work, right? In the Image Clothing Company. In the image of Jesus Christ is how and who and by our bodies is his design. Okay, so here in St. George, Utah, I'm going to talk about where grip strength comes from. Okay, what I'm going to show you here is this rock. You've seen a rock before? Here's a rock. If you've never seen one, here's one. But in all seriousness, where grip strength comes from is the same thing as where any functionality in the body comes from. Natural, neutral, and normal are synonyms within the human body's functioning. Not only is there a centered line to the human being, but there's a neutral to every joint, a neutral to every position the body can be in, including rotations, internal rotation versus external rotation from the neutral, okay? And this is from our hand up to our elbow in the forearm, from our hand up to the shoulder in the entire arm as a whole, from the foot up to the knee in the lower leg, and then from the foot up to the hip in the whole leg all together, okay? Now, we talk about gripped arches in the feet a lot, and how the feet are basically the same thing as the hands, okay? There's hand arches as well. In our hands, there is this natural rounding, and where that comes from is what we discuss often, fingernails, okay? Our fingernails are so important, and when we're talking about grip strength here and where grip strength really comes from in the body, fingernails. They need to be fully to the tips of our fingers, entirely supporting and backing the fingers, okay? And same with our toenails. That's what they're for, because our fingers and our toes will be so overworked and curl in and take our bodies like the wrist out of their only neutral position if we can't have all the bones tracking in line, right? There's only one way the human body could ever work, just a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space, aka the human being on Earth. Everything has to just be able to work the only way that God designed it to in all the functions, and fingernails and toenails cut relatively flat on the tips so that we can stay in this neutral position and not roll out of it, right? And it changes things up to our shoulder. The hand is essentially the shoulder, okay? The foot is essentially the hip. There's only one way the human body could ever work. It's just a machine. There's all these bones in the hand stemming from the tips of the fingers that need to track in line all the way up to the elbow through the musculature and the tendons that connect our hand to the rest of our body, right? So, grip strength, as I say, it's nothing to do with us. And also, I say, don't believe me. Don't believe in the Image Clothing Company or Evan Strong as the founder with anything we say, because truth is truth, and we're just doing all we can to relay truth. But it's impossible physically, actually legitimately physically impossible to train the human being. There's just no way you could possibly train into a neutral to 2 sides of something, okay? It truly is just a mechanical machine, the human body, in all senses of it working physically. So it's impossible to train grip strength in ways. You can get stronger grip strength, but you can never train your body to grip things or to work in a gripped way that's not the way that it just works, because there's just bones that have to clear each other and all the fingers have to always track in line. Okay? Otherwise, you'll just bind up joints and hit bones into each other. The fingers need to work next to each other, and we can't be trying to do things with our hands open. Otherwise, you just get all this, cramping of angles from bones just coming into the wrist. It needs to be in line. Otherwise, the body doesn't really work. And then other things like the shoulder will try to compensate. Okay? The hand is essentially the shoulder, just as the feet are essentially the hips. There are people hiking up here, so if I get a little bit nervous, there you go. So, grip strength, that's the whole thing, is we need to keep things like the wrist in its neutral position, always. And this is one thing I talk about a lot with just how there's a rounding to the hands, with the hands correlating with the arches in our feet, and how we say the human body can only ever work activated as a whole, right? Everything's there with a role to play. If we don't have arches in our feet, then our hand arches won't be able to be there either, because what the hands do is actually determined by what the feet do. And so if our feet are being altered by not being able to grip those arches inward from things like shoelacing or shoe tying, that will actually go directly to the hands as well. And then if we alter the arches in the feet, you'll alter the arches in the hands. And then from there, the fingers just won't be able to track in line, because as the hand wraps around the thumb, there's this rounding to the hand, just like the rounding in the arches of the feet. And that's only going to be able to happen if we can keep our neutral wrists in a position where the pads of the fingers will just wrap naturally around the pads of the thumb, or the pad of the thumb, right? And so in that position, now the neutral wrist is still there. There's this slight rounding to the fingers, just as if they're wrapping around the thumb. And this is actually all coming from the feet, because the feet are supporting the whole body, allowing the shoulder to be in its neutral position. If I move my foot, my shoulder alters. If my shoulder gets altered, my neutral wrist will be altered as well. See how that can just all correlate? Because we're always just on top of Earth's gravity. And that's the big thing. A lot of what we show under In the Image Clothing Company is just, we're just dealing with gravity. And so things in the body are just always having to be supported by the feet. We always have to keep ourselves in all senses of what we can just above Earth's center of gravity. And that comes from the feet. Because if our feet aren't allowed to grip arches and keep our body just vertical and neutral, okay, the pelvis tucked, the knees just slightly bent to have activation in the legs, the core muscles activated with the rest of the musculature of the body just neutral, okay, vertical on Earth. That's what I'm saying. If we have our feet altered to where our body is just not neutral, then things like our hands just aren't tracking in line, okay? And it's just harder to hold things out of a neutral position, because that's just one direction from the other side. Neutral, down, neutral, up with the wrist, right? So in all aspects of our life, that's what we show. You have to stay within your neutral positions, right? The human body, because then there's just motion. And otherwise, if we're just doing things with our shoulders out of their neutral, stemming from our hips up with maybe drawstrings rotating the hip, or pant waistlines farther in the front, lower, just changing the position of our pelvis, right? Then it travels up through the spine and it changes the position of the shoulders. And then out to your hands, it's now changed the position of your hands. And then we just can't have grip strength, because muscles and tendons that are pulling a bone to a bone need to track in line to do that, okay? And so the whole thing is, it's what I say, it's actually physically impossible to train the human body to do anything. You can train strength within the body's only workings, but if your body's altered and you try to train grip now like this, and you're in life with your whole body just in one direction outside of its neutral from the other direction, if you will, right? I mean, it's kind of a strange position to show, but that's really how that would be. It's like when I show the natural scapula position, a video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, and, well, I can go like this, right? The shoulders, neutral, in all ways. Here is the wrist, neutral, okay? And if my shoulders go down, my wrist will go down, and then back up to neutral. And if my shoulders go up, my wrist can come up, and then back down to neutral, okay? So this is what I mean, is just the inline position of all the trackings. All musculature does is move the skeletal system. The human body is about the skeletal system, because that's all that muscles do, is they connect at one end and another end, and they just pull those ends together in line, just from where they connect to immovable bones. You know, as far as the bone itself is just solid, but it hinges where it meets another bone, you know? And so where grip strength really comes from, well, we've got to look at the feet. We've got to look at the pelvis. We have to keep our feet unaltered, which the only way the human feet are shaped is just what we title In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique. It's one of our 2 prerequisites, in addition to just where clothing sits for everybody, to not alter the body, right? If we alter the shape and workings of our feet, then from our feet all the way up to not only our hands, but the tip of our head, our entire body will be altered, right? The jaw naturally stabilizing the entire body. If the feet arches collapse, well, the jaw will be out of its only neutral position. And if the jaw can't stabilize the body neutral, then the wrist will be out of its neutral position. And then we try to train grip strength, let's say like this, and you're just binding up joints, creating scar tissue in the body, and just damaging your body when there's a neutral that has to remain. And that's what I was showing, right? Is we realize, if and where we do, we have to use the pads of our fingers together, okay? The pads of our fingers are what hold things. If our fingernails are cut too short, which is so common from what I've seen in modern 2025, and I did that for a lot of my life. I just didn't know the need for fingernails or the proper length or how to cut them. And so we show these things under In The Image Clothing Company. I mean, I personally do now, as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, understanding how the body really actually works, and it's only something you can ever allow to work, designed by God, right? We allow the body to work. We let dogs stay natural because God designed them, not us, right? There's just a neutral to everything. I just chucked the rock. Okay, so anyway, grip strength. It's coming from everywhere in your body. Pelvis, centered, under you, okay? You can tuck it more posterior, or you can tuck it anterior. But, well, it wouldn't be really a tuck, it'd be a falling anterior. But tucked, vertical, underneath us, right? We talk about where pants sit. We talk about where tops sit. We talk about the neutrals. And let's look at this. A video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, keeping elbows at the natural waist. This is great for the visual. I'm wearing a fanny pack at my natural waist, right? My pant waistline is right here, above my hips, right? Slightly higher in the front than the rear, where pants sit for everybody. Man, woman, tall, short, skinny, fat, any age, any part of the earth, any time period to ever be. You're just a human being, okay? My fanny pack is also at my natural waist, right? Below those lowest ribs, but above the hip bones, okay? And that's what that video is about. Keeping elbows at the natural waist under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. in everything we do in our lives, we have to keep our elbows just where they work, front to back, okay, up and down, at our natural waist. And why I show that so clearly, correlating it with the grip strength in the hands, and we'll talk about the feet in this as well, grip strength, to the degree that I do. We talk about feet a lot, but I'll at least mention a little bit about gripping of the feet in this, as long as I remember, because it's the same thing as the hands, like I'm saying. Seriously, and I'll show it as long as I do in this, okay? But keeping the elbows at the natural waist, this is where gravity hangs our arms down from. Neutral, with our shoulders sitting in their only location they ever can actually work in, just because musculature just inserts at two different ends and pulls together and then relaxes behind the head, right? The shoulders connect to the spine of the neck and the very base of the skull with these upper trapezius muscles. That's behind our head with our gripped arches in our feet, core activated, body vertical and neutral on Earth's gravity, elbows at the natural waist, and now we have a neutral wrist. Talk about the human body just being a mechanical machine. This is what I mean. That's how I can say so bold and clear, don't believe me. Truth is truth. There's no opinion to where grip strength comes from. It's a mechanical machine, the human body. So we just have to know how it works to the degree that we need to in our modern man-made world, placed onto God's natural earth in order to allow it to work, okay? Because there's actually things we need to be very intentional about in modern day you never would have had to even possibly deal with in the past. Things like stretch, which goes the opposite direction of the only way that muscles could ever work. All musculature in the body only shortens to work, but there's just opposing muscles to a function, right? So one side shortens while the other side relaxes, and then this side now shortens while the other side relaxes to allow a function to happen, okay? Stretch within clothing comes with these unnatural materials that only came decades ago from today's date back. And stretch, really just goes the opposite direction of the only way that muscles could ever work, okay? Contracting, shortening. So, neutrals. The body's about its neutrals. You hear me say it all the time if you've heard me say much of anything under In the Image Clothing Company when I discuss the anatomy of the human body in depth as the founder, okay? But keeping the elbows at the natural waist, now, if I'm standing here on Earth's gravity, which I always am as long as I'm on Earth, okay, as far as I know, that's how that would always have to work. Keeping my elbows here, just where they naturally would sit. Now look, nothing in my body changes. My head moves with freedom of movement is what I mean. You know, my neck side to side. My feet stay activated. My core stays as it always has to be. The human body can only ever work activated as a whole. Everything's there with a role to play. We can't drag around dead weight. No compensation can happen. Everything's got a different function. The core should always be activated. It's the center of everything else, top to bottom. So, clothing. Truly the only fix to human beings' physical problems. The only thing physically placed on us. No claim, don't believe me, but it's the truth. I discuss it in such depth, there's no possible opinion. Okay. Other than when I'm just not saying something exactly correct, but I'm a human being. Never will I be perfect at saying anything. Okay. But I will tell you that this is the truth. There's a neutral in the wrist where our grip strength can happen, where all of our finger pads, where the fingerprints are, right, this last digit, can just meet the thumb pad. When our elbow's at our natural waist, and if our elbow's not, because let's say my feet arches collapse, my feet stick out, now my pelvis changed, and my core deactivated, now my arms don't hang at my natural waist, I can't even quite get my hands even together, my fingertips, because there's only one neutral, and then they just meet because of the length of the fingers. When we're neutral, they'll always just be, no matter what position you're in, just where we can close our hand and our fingers align. But if there's things, I keep mentioning the feet because they're so huge for the entire body. They're our foundation. We're only as good as our foundation. But they're the farthest thing away from the hands. That's another reason why I mention it, because anywhere in between, anything that's possibly altered in any way that we could do anything about, I get it, right? Amputations, deformities, major surgeries, birth defects, anything like this, we discuss. Everyone's got their own individuality to the degree they do, but there's this universal human design, and it's just a machine placed on a rock in space. And everywhere we are in our lives, we need to be able to just close our hands and have our fingers touch. And if your feet are altered, then you go to close your hands and you just like miss your fingertips, because there's only a neutral, right? There's only one position that things will just mechanically align in, and that's where our grip strength comes from. I'm an athlete. Anyway, that's a joke. I am an athlete. That's why it's a joke, because it's ironic that I dropped the rock. So yeah, neutral, okay? Straight out from that pinky finger, and then there's just motion outside of the neutral. Be careful with your wrist, right? But I'm still myself getting out of chronic patterning and scar tissue, which is what we do here on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. It's nothing to do with clothing other than allowing the human body to operate the only way that it ever possibly could, designed by God, okay? But over a year into founding In the Image Clothing Company, as of today's date, I'm still getting out of chronic patterning and scar tissue, which is how we word it here under In the Image Clothing Company. Oversized clothing, imbalances in clothing, ropes introduced to the body, right? Shoelaces and drawstrings, rotating the entire body, and the right-handed world we live in, and then just things in our daily life, because we just talk about how to function in daily life in all the ways that we discuss the human being, and again, dogs on In the Image Clothing Company, poodles as well, okay? And so what we do is rid the patterns that get built up in the body when it's trying to work around things like oversized tops, and you've got no grip strength because nothing's tracking quite in line in your entire arm. If your top, meaning like your shirt or something like this, is oversized, you know, we talk about where clothing sits because there's only a neutral to the body, okay? For every body. See what I mean? Doesn't exclude anybody, even if you're quite unique, you know, even if you're paralyzed, you're still on Earth's gravity, okay? And so grip strength, fingernails, the rounding. So even this rock, you know, I talk about that where there's nothing flat in nature, and then now I'm holding this sandstone. I get it, but just meaning the ways that we have things in modern day, there's certain things that we're just always holding that are very, very flat in a lot of ways, right? In our hands, the things we walk on, countertops and tabletops, and just, you know, products, in all the ways that there are so many things that are flat nowadays. This rock, you may be holding it like this, but then you may be holding it like this, and then like this, and there's just a lot of texture to it. There's a lot of dexterity in the hands, only outside of the neutral if we can remain in the neutral, right? Because you're not going to be able to have dexterity in your hands stuck on one side of a neutral. You can't get to the other side, right? If you're just chronically like down like this, then you can't even get up to the neutral, and then from there we can get up to the upper end of the grip strength or the grip positioning in the wrist. So anyway, a lot of that will come from just having that neutral position, and that's the same thing, like I'm saying, stemming at the feet, up the neutral ankle, through the lower leg, allowing the knee to track in line, and then up to the hips. You're good. I don't know if this goes through for bikes though. I think it's... Okay. Okay, you're good. I just remember I rode this and we had to walk a lot of it because you can't quite fit a bike through there.
Yeah.
So.
Did you see like 3 other people coming through here recently?
I did actually, yeah. Maybe like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
They went up, so. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, we've got this neutral position that'll travel through, stemming at the feet all the way up, and then once we get to the hips, it'll travel through the spine to the shoulder and then out to the hand. And so when we're focusing on the neutral position of the hand to get that grip strength, it has to come from the feet first, because it stems there. And since the functionality of the feet is just about the exact same as the hands, there's only actually one difference in the amount of bones in the hands and feet. And then when they grip arches, it really aligns in the same position. The neutral pinky straight out from the outside of the forearm, and then that neutral foot is the neutral pinky toe straight forward from the feet, okay? And so that's why we focus so much on the feet when we're thinking about grip strength in the hands, because it's basically the exact same thing. But then also, what we really need to focus on with the feet is they grip arches themselves. It's not only about how the feet are going to come up and affect the hands, but the feet, that's what we talk about, right? Under In the Image Clothing Company, when we say how feet arches grip inward, opposing the center line, keeping us vertical on Earth's gravity. And when you grip an arch in the foot in, we're gripping from the outside of the foot, like where this outside of my hand is gripping, from the pinky finger and the ring finger, and then traveling in, you know, really at that pinky finger, that's where the most grip is pulling inward from to get that neutral wrist, really, which would be the neutral foot when the outside toes, or those pinky toes, grip inward, neutral, and straight forward. And so that's the thing with the gripped arches in the feet, is they'll be the same as the hand, where, like I show, from the foot up to the knee, there's the same as in the forearm, right? From the fingertip up to the elbow, there's that internal rotation and external rotation. That same positioning from the neutral, straight out from the pinky finger, is the same from the foot up to the knee, straight out from that pinky toe, once we've gripped the arch in the foot, right? And so that's why when we talk about grip and where the grip strength in the hand is, we have to focus on grip strength in the arches of the feet, because there's a lot to it. Even sensory wise, it travels from the feet to the hands, but then again, just supporting our bodies so that our shoulders can be neutral, traveling out to the hand, and then our hand can be neutral. This all comes from the feet, okay? And that's the thing, is a lot of people will be within shoes that are laced incorrect and tied incorrect, and they'll be trying to train grip strength in their hand. Or watch this, heels on the shoe. The importance of zero drop shoes. The term, I have a video that I've made, meaning there is a video that I have made under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company titled that. The importance of zero drop shoes. The term, meaning just the same height, heel to toe, in the foot, so that we actually can grip arches in our feet. The height of a gripped arch, there's the word gripped, right, in a video under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company about the feet. They grip, okay? Listen to this. I'm on sand, but the feet grip inward, okay? And from internal rotation, and then we're neutral. At least internally rotating from external rotation to the neutral, but then there's farther in from there, right? From the neutral. Internal and external, okay? In the hands and the feet, hips and shoulders, okay? Forearms and lower legs. The human body is just all one. It's just a machine. So grip strength, neutrals. The height of a gripped arch, and zero drop shoes. That's where I was. The term. If our feet aren't just flat on the earth, and you know, there's texture, but just meaning unless we're actually on an incline or on a decline, there's just a level angle to the earth, right? And gravity just pulling down on everything. And if our feet aren't there at the term zero drop, then we elevate our heels of our feet off the ground, okay? And our body compensates. And now you train grip strength in your hands, and everything in your whole body's altered until you can get your heels back, ow, on the ground. Okay, feet flat on the ground, and then it'll drop everything back into its neutral position, perpendicular, if you will, with Earth's gravity, right? Just meaning straight up and down, like you look at poles or trees or whatever it is, or a human being standing vertical on Earth's gravity, okay? So, grip strength in the hands, it comes from the feet. Gripped arches in the feet and gripping of the hands with the rounding or the hand arches that are just naturally there coming from nails, fully supporting the fingertips and the toe tips. And then we've got strength. What I was showing with the elbows at the natural waist is here, your body stays vertical and neutral, and you can have that neutral wrist with your elbows at your natural waist with good backing to the fingers from the fingernails. And this happens in a position where your fingers are relatively straight because they have the backing from the nails to be in this position. I've shown this before. Well, I've just talked about this a lot. This is what I mean when I say there's no such thing as posture, truly. Because if there's only a neutral, you can't train posture. There's just one position for everything that it would naturally rest in with motion outside of that. That's why it's only ever possible, truly, all opinions aside, to allow the human body to work. You can never train it. There's no physically possible way because the neutral resides between all the motion outside of it. Okay? And gosh, I mean, this is In The Image Clothing Company. It's so huge. This is what I mean. In The Image Clothing Company has always and will always be massive because it's nothing to do with us. We couldn't even take credit for any of this. We're just speaking truth. This will never change. Eternally valid information because it's just God's designs. The human beings and the dogs. It's unreal what I'm able to do here as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. I'm in this for life, right? This is what we're doing. This is really what we are, by the way. We're not about fashion. I mentioned that in this, but just to be clear, we'll always have good clothing, staying centered, fitting correct, where we discuss clothing needs to sit, because it's not our opinion, but it's just, you see how I understand the body as the founder, and being made in all the ways that we can of 100% natural materials, and then we can really rid things like stretch. And materials themselves damage the body by seeping into the pores of the skin, right? There's other things that come with this. So same with dog products, right? Keeping collars centered. We talk about for human beings, for dogs as well. Collars for dogs are usually much more imbalanced than collars for human beings. And we focus on our collars within the Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification, and other things, removing all tags from clothing, our second prerequisite to In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique. Another one of those things that just didn't even exist decades ago from today's date. Tags in clothing, okay? Damaging the body. They're either causing a physical gap, changing the body's only working position, and or just not allowing musculature to activate. You talk about grip strength. If you've got a tag in the rear of your collar of your top, it's just going to cause a gap there, changing the position of your shoulder because it's placed directly on muscles like the trapezius muscles between the shoulder blades, and change the position of the shoulder down to the hand, and now you don't have the neutral hand, wrist, forearm, elbow, shoulder, trapezius muscle, okay, from the tag, it's traveling to the hand. Then you can never train grip strength because, again, you can't train grip strength other than getting stronger in your neutral position. There's only a neutral to the entire human body. But yeah, then if you do try to train grip strength from an imbalance in the body anywhere, that's what I was saying earlier, you're just training into an imbalance that can really last for life, build up scar tissue in areas because musculature just adheres to bones and the fascia really gets all stuck in a place that you've been using it in when it's not neutral, just because it can't work like that. So it's trying hard to, and it's like holding on to the bones in ways that are just very unnatural for it too. Okay, chronic patterning and scar tissue. This is what I mean. Right, what we really do under In The Image Clothing Company's main side is we rid these patternings and we allow the body to work. So anyway, grip strength, okay? Rounding, texture, fingernails, a neutral position to the hand and wrist. When I say rounding, I mean rounding in the hand, texture to what we hold, and all the fingers meshing at the thumb pad, okay, with the finger pads. Wrapping around the thumb, and there's your rounding, right? Hold something flat, and it just changes the position of the hand. We've got videos talking about how the pinky finger affects the entire body, just like the pinky toes will as well, if they're altered is the point, right? Incorporating a radius in daily life, which is a rounding, okay? Just like around our thumb, just because our hands are round, correlating with the arches in our feet, right? Involving the pinky finger. When we're doing things in life, we need to be able to involve our pinky finger, but it's the shortest finger. And so things that are flat, the pinky can't grip it, and then we lose that neutral wrist just to get the fingers to touch because the pinky misses, and now there's not that support from the neutral, okay, against the thumb, if you will, if you can see what I'm showing there. We show that where we do, but that's the big point, is we always need to keep those pinky fingers straight out from the end of our forearm, because that is the neutral. And so if you don't have the pinky finger involved, you just can't have activation of musculature on the outside of the forearm where the pinky finger is, because that's the neutral, right? And so then it won't be neutral if the pinky finger is not involved with what we do. And if something's flat, you just can't involve the pinky finger because you need the rounding to be able to get just the shorter finger to what you're using to grip it, okay? And just in nature, there would just be enough texture and everything for that to just be the case, but, right, man-made world in modern day is what we're living in. So it is what it is, dude. Again, there's no opinion to this stuff, and I just love how deeply I'm able to explain this. You know, it's such I pray gratitude for this, because no matter if I was in a beautiful location saying all this, or I was just sitting in a building somewhere or whatever, I mean, this level of understanding is amazing because this is the truth. You know, it's crazy. I mean, it's awesome. So yeah, eternally valid video, right? I mean, this could be the only video we ever made on this, and it would last forever with the information in it. It's amazing what you're able to do when you're allowed to know truth, right? When you allow yourself to do all that you can to serve God and follow his will. He designed all this. How does it work? That's all we need to do as a human being, and then we can work, as in physically operate, you know, and our lives can work as well. You know, in the Image Clothing Company podcast, another one of our fourths, that's what we do. We're on episode 177. We discuss the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's just the truth of all things, right? Don't believe me, no claim, but we're all human beings on the same earth, designed by one God. We just discuss him, Jesus Christ, as he says that he is. We don't do that perfect, but he is perfect. You know, it's just like anytime I could discuss how the body works, I'm not going to discuss it perfect, but it'll only work how it's designed to. You know, we're just trying to get down to truth. As human beings, that's the only thing we can do in this life. That's all there is truth. Okay, so the truth is grip strength. It's coming from where I'm discussing here, right? And what I was showing, though, with, I know I've been saying this for like 10, 15 minutes or more, trying to get to this, with the elbows at the natural waist, which is fine because I've been saying other things that are great as well. This is the position where our hands are still neutral, okay? But if we don't have fingernails backing our fingers, or anything even down at our feet that are changing the way that our fingers just can't meet at the fingertips, okay? Meaning finger pads, but rather, yes, the fingertips are what's being used. Because if your neutral wrist isn't there, when you try to touch your fingers together, you're only going to get to the tips, not the pads. I mean, you can hear the difference. You can't really hear my fingertips touching together, and it's hard to even get there. But the pads, you can touch together well because they're meant to, okay? I mean, listen to this, right? I mean, that's real grip strength. Nothing to do with me, but I just mean the mechanical positioning. It's like this solid grip, but it's coming from the feet, the hips, the shoulders, the jaw, everywhere in between before you ever get out to the hand. Shoulder drops, and now it's like ow, literally, that was a real ow. It was, because sometimes I want to like kind of emphasize the point and kind of like push what I'm doing, but I don't want to hurt my body in weird positions either when I'm making these videos. But with the shoulder dropped, you just can't get there. What I said ow for is because in my forearm here, these tendons, they're binding up. Look at the angles, right? They're just pulling from an end point here at the fingertip all the way to the elbow. You need to track this in line. I mean, look at my wrist here. As much as you can see with the lighting and everything, and I think you can probably see it enough to tell. You just see all the tendons and musculature moving all the way up to the elbow as I wiggle my fingertips, because that's where it comes from. The only way you can have fingertips is if you have a shoulder. Between that's the upper arm, the elbow, the forearm, the wrist, and then we get to the hand. The thing we could try to train for grip strength, but it's got to start clear at the shoulder and really clear at the feet as our foundation, okay? So this is where it really comes from, grip strength. And if you don't have nails on your fingertips, I'm so humbled by this. I love this. I'm so grateful. That's what I'm doing when I kind of like pause like that, just praying gratitude. It's ridiculous to be able to explain this like this. This is the truth. It's the only way it'll ever happen. This is the only way your body will ever work, and I can tell you that, regardless of how different you think you are, right? I don't have opinions on this. God designed the body, and that's in the Image Clothing Company, bro. That's the information we give. Is just take our hands off it. Don't believe me. How does it really work? Let's just analyze it and figure it out. It's amazing. You just can't train grip strength is what I'm saying. I mean, you really can't. But also, we just are so naturally strong in our own situations, truly, okay? So, here, finger pads, elbows at the natural waist, good grip strength. Okay? Now, if we have not enough length in our fingernails, we just are touching tips of fingers like this, the elbows have to move. Man. And the shoulders will then move, traveling from the shoulders now down through the spine to the hips, down through the hips and to the knees, to the feet. The feet arches collapse because lack of fingernail length, okay? Vice versa, right? That's what I'm saying. From the feet up to the hands or from the hands down to the feet, any alteration alters the entire body in between. The human body's all there. Anywhere you go, there you are, right? Nothing's outside of us. We can't, well, there's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled, It's Not Outside of Yourself. Anything we ever try to do in our lives, we can only address ourselves, right? And everything in the body goes anywhere all of it does. So the fingers and lack of just natural grip strength, because cutting fingernails too short, will go to our feet, arches, okay? Yeah, man. So grip strength, where does it come from? We have to look at the body as a whole, okay? Because it comes through the whole body. Really where it comes from, if we wanted to give like a pretty simple explanation, the entire body in its neutrals and fingernails and toenails. And then you just got grip strength, okay? The rounding, like we say. But there is a lot to this, because you'll never do this without clothing being intentional. And you don't know where your clothing has to sit to allow your body to work if you don't know where your clothing has to sit. I didn't until I was about 24 years old, right? Before founding In the Image Clothing Company, I started to really dive into how does the body work? Why isn't it? In so many people's cases, all this chronic pain and problems that people have in modern day, it just never happened in the past. And why is it happening now? And what can we do about it? Well, it's the only thing physically placed on us, okay? So shoulder seams in incorrect locations will just alter your shoulder, altering your wrist, okay? Oversized clothing will just alter your shoulder, altering your wrist, okay? Pant waistlines sitting in an incorrect location will just alter your spine to your shoulder, out to your wrist. There you go. Shoes, like I said, up. Anything in shoes, we talk about a lot of things. Shoe lacing, shoe tying, what's required in shoe design, even shoe tongue tabs, right? Tags that are in shoes. Anything in the entire body will potentially just completely diminish your grip strength. And we're naturally so strong. I said that a minute ago, and that's a huge point to focus on. naturally the body just works so well. It's designed to work. That's an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, and it just is. And it'll just do it, but only the way that it was designed to work, right? Neutral. So, anyway, we have to just be able to get our fingers as close to each other as they can get, which is touching. There's just a full range of motion, right? Fully open fingers versus fully touching all the fingers together. And it's so hard to close the hand, and you won't do it physically, regardless of how capable you think you are, right? Mechanically, it won't happen. Closing the hand if the shoulder's dropped. Because like I'm showing, all the musculature and tendons, it just comes from the hand all the way up. We wouldn't have a hand if we didn't have a shoulder. It's connected to the body, and the shoulder has to come first, right? Then the upper arm, then the elbow, then the forearm, then the wrist, and then we can think about the hand. But all these things up here to the torso of the body, where all the musculature connects into, right? From the outside of the shoulder into the sternum, in the front, on both sides, evenly, musculature connects in the center. From the outside of the shoulder to the spine, in the rear, on both sides, evenly, musculature connects to the body, behind us. And into the center of us, we're more vertical on Earth's gravity. Musculature is more shortened or contracted, which is the only direction it works in, all things in the body, right? Like I was saying earlier. And so having grip strength in the hand is something that's clear out there. Before you ever get there, you have to focus on from the very center out, from the very base out, okay? Before we ever could consider even thinking about grip strength in the hand. So our shoulder being dropped, we just can't close the hand because it just won't work. Mechanically, things will bind up. Positions of things just won't allow contraction, right? I mean, you think about really gripping something and pulling it, you're pulling to your body. That's happening at your shoulder. Really, it's happening at your sternum or your spine, okay? And then all the way out to your hand. But it's starting at your hand and coming all the way in to the center of the body, and we're gripping hard, right? Grip strength comes from places that are nowhere near the hand, okay? And in the feet, it comes from places that are nowhere near the feet because it can come from the hand. So if you can't have your shoulder at its just natural, neutral height and positioning, it's like I'm dancing, right? Then you'll never even be able to close your hand to begin with. So we talked about this, right? Things need to fit in our hand. Well, hands, if you have two. If you have none, then hey, there you go. It's a whole different topic. It's a whole different discussion because you don't even have hands to worry about grip strength. And some people, that's fine, right? But if we are holding things so often that don't even allow us to get our hand all the way closed, okay? Look at my shoulders. Okay? If my hand is excessively open, meaning any farther than all my fingers touching my thumb, naturally is excessively open, if you can see what I mean. Oh, well, it'd be this way, all right? But then we just don't have full contraction clear up to the center line of our body from the hand. And then you'll never be able to have your hand have good strength because now your shoulder will be altered because just the contraction of the full range of motion, okay, is only partially there. This is so amazing. Oh my gosh. I'm so grateful for this. Okay. So there you go. Where does grip strength really come from? I've discussed a lot of where in this video, but we discussed a lot of things in depth. You know, we discuss shoelaces in depth. We discuss shoulder positioning in depth. We discuss, you know, everything in between is the point, just anything that would lead us to talking about grip strength, because like we just have found out in this video, it comes from the entire body working as a whole before we can ever even think about the hands We discuss all of that, truly all of it. We discuss the entire body. It has to always, ever, only, and that's it, work as an entirety. And we know, as in the Image Clothing Company, the human body in depth. And the only way it could actually ever work, which is natural. As if we never altered it, how would it just be? How do animals work? Animals don't have problems like human beings do. Animals don't create a modern man-made society, or we could label it then as an animal-made society to live in. You know, animals don't put clothing on themselves. They could be in locations where their body doesn't just sit and work and hinge mechanically, okay? Animals don't have things they could put in their pockets. Animals don't have ropes that they can tie around their waist, around their feet, or around like the hood of their top, or whatever it is, you know? Jewelry. I mean, animals don't have these things. And animals just work. If not, they get eaten by another animal, right? Human beings, it don't work so well in modern day, all right? And because there's only one way the human body works, and the ways that we structure our man-made societies don't line up with that. And we don't have a say. It's another episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast title. We have no say, right? I mean, it's God's choice. It's God's earth. It's God's design when we're talking about the human being. And again, for dogs as well. So, Poodle Parade events, right? Here in the state of Utah, the United States of America, where we're based. Currently, I'm in St. George. We will always be in Utah. I'm moving down here to southern Utah. And this is where our building will be actually built. This is where the team will be. Bring your poodles, purebred of any size, or mixed poodles of any size. And yeah, Poodle Parade events. You know, a lot of cool stuff like this. We'll just do a lot outside, get people into nature, dogs into nature, and just have a lot of beautiful experiences. Don't come to Poodle Parade events to expect to be given a lot of information, right? And I said that, I've been saying that for months. I've been saying this, you know, I'll give information where I do at Poodle Parade events on letting dogs stay natural. And yeah, sure, but no, if you can see what I mean. That's just not the point. It's just to come and have a good time and hang out, congregate together, you know, bring people together and just relax, really. I mean, just have a good adventure, see nature. The dogs will love it. I will love it. The whole team will love it. Everyone who comes, bringing your dogs, we'll have a good time. That's Poodle Parade events, right? One of the events we do, as in the Image Clothing Company. Currently, I live up in more central northern Utah, is what I mean by I'll be moving down here. So it'll be, I mean, this type of environment a lot of the time, okay? So I got a little sliver holding that rock. Yeah, In the Image Clothing Company music is the other fourth that I haven't mentioned yet in this video. A lot of what gets shown is the sizing and setup of guitar to not alter the rounding in our hands. A lot of that comes from fingernails, okay? But a lot of that is what I've discussed in this video. The rounding or radius to a guitar neck, okay? Nut and saddle, the whole guitar, the fretboard, right? To keep the rounding in the hands. You play a flat guitar and you go through life and you have no grip strength because your hands only ever work rounded. It's not my decision, not my choice, not my opinion. It's the truth, right? Flat fretboard guitars have been around for who knows how many thousands of years or whatever it's been. They damage every single human that ever plays one, and I've been one of those humans that got just, you know, I went through hell playing flat fretboard guitars. It was terrible. And so that's why we do a lot of that on In the Image Clothing Company music. It's one of the things that led me to be able to found In the Image Clothing Company, understand the anatomy of the human body, and then get my body to where it is at any current date. And like I say, you know, the truth of what we discuss here is in the fruits of the labors, right? All that I've gone through, you can see now how my body works, and you can see the actual, truly, without a claim, you know, visual and physical transformation in my body's functioning from me doing the very things that we discuss and are founded upon under In the Image Clothing Company, okay? That's what I say when I say I preach what I have practiced. I said in the beginning of this, you know, it's always on the back end. Just things that work in life and God's truth, right? The gospel or good news of Jesus Christ, which is God. It's the paradoxical gospel of Jesus Christ. It's backward, okay? Anyway, that's just how things work. That's just where truth lies, is like things that are different and backward from worldly ways of doing things God's ways are higher and holier than ours, right? He's perfect and we are not. So that's a lot of what we do, though. Music-wise, it gets geared around the gospel of Jesus Christ. Rhythm and poetry, metronome madness, lyricism, singing, guitar, whatever we get into, because we discuss, right, whatever we get into with music. I'll leave it like that just to kind of give you a, go check it out if you'd like to. In the Image Clothing Company music, okay? We are on episode 36 of Metronome Madness, and that's a really cool thing. Man, you know, I give insights where I do. That's a big role that I have in this, as, you know, what I always will label myself, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. I'm in this for life and I'm leading it for life, but that's just the titling that I am, is the founder. A lot of what I do within anything we do is just give the insights, and truly, without being self-proclaimed, it really is, you know, wisdom that I've acquired through life. You know, I really do understand a lot of things deeply, and so that comes through the music on In the Image Clothing Company music, In the Image Clothing Company podcast. We get in depth with discussions, and then this is the thing, you know, that's our goal, really. And well, the goal is natural under all four sides of In the Image Clothing Company, but being able to discuss what we're doing and what we're talking about to such depth to where there's no possible opinion or dispute or question if it's true. It's just true, you know. And that's one of the big gifts that God has given me, is the ability to speak and to relay information and to put words behind what I'm discussing. I mean, and that comes through music in a lot of ways with what I do, okay? So, so there you go. I'm almost crying. I'm in this for life. The dogs will be such a big part of this, you know, what the dogs can do for us as human beings. We discuss interacting with our dogs as the owner, holding leashes naturally to keep that neutral wrist, right? Rather than altering our dogs. Yes, but our bodies, because the height of dog versus the height of owners, you know, getting down to the level of your dogs, it can alter your body. You know, a lot of things with dogs when it comes to letting dogs stay natural, like the same things we talk about with human beings, feeding and hydration, toys, you know, and ideally stay away from just about every toy you could ever have for your dog. A lot of digestive stuff can happen to the dogs if they're swallowing these materials, little pieces of things from toys, even bones in ways, you know. I mean, the goal is natural, is the focus, right? And so just kind of giving you an idea of what we really do over there. Yeah, okay. Not about fashion. We'll always have good clothing, okay? Not about just cute poodle puppies, but we breed purebred standard poodles, right? We talk about doing things properly, keeping less dogs in shelters, more dogs at homes, purebred dogs, and the importance of, we do a lot. We always do so much on all four sides of In the Image Clothing Company under the gift of video, okay? I love it so much, just doing things through video. Being able to document, you know, it just lasts forever. And so does the information we give, as long as we're doing everything we can to just speak things as they are, okay? So, anyway, there you go. Grip strength, man. Comes from everywhere it comes from. Oh, this is a really big point. And this correlates directly with the shoulder height. We've got videos talking about the importance of even, right? And then things on two sides of the body, either body parts like insertions of muscles, or things in clothing like even short sleeves. But one of the things is importance of even elbow extension, where that's the thing with the neutral wrist, is it's going to come from having our elbow be able to fully extend right next to our side. And so that's the big thing with anything like oversized clothing or having a gap there. And that's, again, what this fanny pack can actually really show, is having that elbow at a neutral position is just right next to our sides. And then from there, now we can have that neutral wrist, because if we can't fully extend the elbow, well, that can be coming from the shoulder, right? Just being in a position where the elbow can't extend unless the shoulder's in a neutral position. And yeah, that's a huge thing, because that's a lot of where scar tissue gets built up, is on the elbow joint itself. And so being able to break up, you know, like I say, that's what we show here, the scar tissue that gets built up from patterning, a lot of that's on the outside of the forearm, and especially on the right side, just because of the right-handed world. And then in that right elbow, if that joint is just bound up, what happens in a joint when it fully locks out is all the bones, the two bones of the forearm and then the one bone of the upper arm meeting at the elbow, they just mesh nicely together. And that only happens with the shoulders in a neutral position. And so if your shoulders are not normally neutral, and just about never maybe, okay, again, coming from anything in the body, you'll never be able to fully extend your elbow. If your wrist is not normally neutral and maybe just about never neutral, then you'll never be able to fully extend your elbow. And, you know, even just like I'm saying, mind the gap, an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. I love this video, how it's turned out. One of the things, you know, besides within the gospel of Jesus Christ that I talked about in there was just the physical gap that gets here between our own rib cage and our own arm, or our own natural waist and our own elbow, right? And we need to have this gap not be there at all. Just as if we didn't have man-made things placed onto us, right? How would the body just lay its arms down at its sides with gravity, okay? And that's that neutral wrist. That's where your grip strength comes from. Your elbows, okay? Being able to fully extend. Otherwise, there's compensation that tries to happen in the whole body. Okay, so that's a big thing. Again, the right side of the body is just about the only thing we focus on in the human body to rid scar tissue and patterning. Choose the Right is an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Again, along with things under the gospel of Jesus Christ, I talked about the right side of the body, okay? In the right-handed world, the right-handed patterning is farther pulled away from the body on the right side, dropped lower, and rotated externally. From the feet up, from the hands up, and musculature only contracts into the center line, and there we're neutral, okay, fully extended in our ranges of motion throughout the whole body, everything tracking in line, and there you go. The thumbs will just point like straight out from the inside of the arm down our sides, and again, that comes from fingernails, being able to support your fingers to get you into a position where your thumb can just be straight out your forearm's inner side, because without fingernails, you curl your fingers in, and now you hit your own legs with your hands, then there's a gap. Oh my goodness, I'm in this for life, okay? It just hits me because I really know what I'm talking about with this. Don't believe me, but I love it, okay? You don't have to believe it. I discuss it so thoroughly. That's what I'm saying. And what I'm saying by saying that is not like me boasting, but it's God gave me this information and this company and this body to even have to be able to discuss or allow to work or not. Okay? And that's the case for all of us, man. Designed in the image of Jesus Christ. There's no opinion of who created you. We're all the same out here. So, what we have here is needing to extend that elbow. Now the thumb can be just straight down at the sides because the neutral wrist is actually with the hand slightly cocked back, and that's the same position, right? As I was showing when the fingers all mesh together, the hand just has to cock back just because of the length of fingers for the pads of the fingers to mesh together. The tips will cause the hand to roll in if we touch the fingers tips together rather than the pads. And then now, yeah, you can't even lay your hands down at your own sides because your fingers will just hit your legs and it'll alter the position of your shoulders, okay? And then that in itself, like I said, from the shoulders down to the elbow can be what's causing the elbow to not extend, but then also from the hand up to the elbow, we won't be able to fully extend our elbows if we have altered hand positions, and so our neutral wrist just can't naturally lay there against our own sides, okay? So that's what I mean. That's where that support from the backing of fingernails will lead you to, is the elbow as well, okay? Just as one of the things on the way up to the shoulder, and then on the way into the center line, and then on the way down to the feet supporting the body, okay? It always just travels through the entire body. It's all there, right? So there you go. That's a lot of where it will come from. Grip strength. Whether we're talking about natural amount of grip strength or trying to get stronger grip, it's always only going to just be in a neutral position. Otherwise, you can't even close your hands, right? You just bind up bones together, and the tendons will just kind of roll around on your bones and not work. And they can't really roll out of the, position they're tracking in. That's what a dislocated finger would be. Truly, I mean, that's exactly what happens. That's what that is. The tendon, you know, just rolling outside of the joint, and the joint isn't connecting the two bones together anymore in the only way they work. That's what I mean. A lot of problems come potentially if we don't do all that we can in our own situations to just reside in our neutrals, okay? Just like swatting flies that aren't there. Anyway, man, that's what it is. All right, it's I love it. It's just so lighthearted. I know I speak so bold, but because it's truth. It's because I know what I'm talking about, but it sounds crazy a lot of the time. The little tiny things, you know, the tininess, if you will, the smallness to things like our modifications we show under In the Image Clothing Company. We will always have free modifications to allow the body to work. You don't have to purchase In the Image Clothing Company products in order for that to happen. Okay, I haven't. As of today's date, over a year into In the Image Clothing Company, we don't have any In the Image Clothing Company products yet, but it's free modifications that we show that I have done, again, speaking out of experience, that have allowed my body to get to where it is today, as of me saying this right now, okay? From where it was, and there's a lot of context, at least up until a little over a year back, under video, right, In the Image Clothing Company content that you can see. That's what I was saying earlier, you know, my transformation, truly, just ridding patterning, though. I haven't done anything to my body, just getting it back to its neutrals, okay? This is what we do, okay? This is what we do, and this is what we do. Shout out to Zero Shoes, the brand. I'm wearing the Ridgeways right now. Good products, man. Good people doing good things. No affiliation as of today's date or up until with them from In the Image Clothing Company, but, you know, good people doing good things, allowing the body to work. Live life feet first, right? Zero Shoes slogan. I'll just shout them out as and if and where I do, okay? And I have been for like a year, just about. Well, I think at least an entire year, actually, yeah. Anyway, it is what it is, bro. The body. That's where I'll leave this. I'm just gonna bro. As you can tell by how I said that, I'm in awe over this place. I love it. And I'm just gonna go have a good time, okay? I'll keep making videos as and where I do down here. If, right, I will, but unless something happens, you know. For these 2 weeks that I'm down here, and then I'll be back. We'll be back as In the Image Clothing Company, Southern Utah, okay? Good context, though. I mean, this is really the stuff where we are. I mean, this is what it looks like here. This is only about, well, I walked here from where I am staying, actually at my grandparents' house, right? It's not like I'm at some resort. I mean, this is just how it is around here. Utah's awesome, so, shoot. Very emotional in a very, very good way is how I am. Through this video and because of this video and because of seriously what God has given me, okay? The ability to work physically, mechanically, operate from years of, you know, physical therapy and pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, and just incorrect workings in my body, such terrible, what you could call bad posture. There's only one way the human body could ever work, though. Now that I know that, I will never have to deal with that stuff again in the same way. Never, I couldn't possibly. Right? Never be the same. An episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Yeah. Takes a lot of time to build up these patternings. As long as you're intentional, you can't build up these patternings. Okay? The stuff that we get out of under In the Image Clothing Company's main side. So there you go. I feel like, you know, doing some crazy like thing or whatever, you know, parkour type movement, but I'm gonna just take it chill. I'm just gonna hang out. I said it again. So that's where I'll leave this, right? I'm just gonna Okay, so thank you. Today is the 8th of November, 2025. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. Shout out to shouting people out, brother. Shout out to truth. Shout out to God without being like disrespectful, you know what I mean? Oh, shoot. Okay. It's like I don't want to cut it, you know, but I'm here. I'm in this for life. You know, we're doing this. It applies to every human being and every dog. All the things we talk about and discuss, okay? We do a lot for the environment. We do a lot in nature. And we'll be able to always work with amazing brands and organizations that are doing similar things to us because of what we do. And it's just amazing. Such a gift. Shout out to the people coming through here. Shout out to their respect, because I mean, I don't have any kind of like authority over them not getting in my video here just at this public place, or like making noise or being disrespectful. And they, you know, they were doing what they could to be quiet and, you know, respectful, because they could tell I was filming something. I mean, that's a gift in itself, you know. It's ridiculous. God is here, man, always, only and ever. I mean, he's the way, the truth, and the life. It's, you know, we serve a perfect God who's ever present. And he knows us, he knows what we need, and he knows what we're doing always, you know. And he'll make a way for his will to get done if we're doing all that we can to do his will. And I'm doing all that I can to do his will. That's why I say it like this, you know, I don't want to cut it. I go over to the shelter with the dogs and I'm like, I don't want to leave, you know. I'm in this for life. I could die tonight, but, you know. I love the warmth. I love the desert. I love where I am right now, physically on this beautiful earth. It takes a lot of work, though, man. It's not a walk in the park. That's another episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, and where I've gotten my body to, you know, with the phrase allowing the body to work, it might just be something that could be perceived as like, oh, you just got to allow it to. It's easy. Okay. It's not easy to get out of chronic patterning and scar tissue. It's been a lot that I've had to go through to get where I am today, you know, physically. A lot is what I mean, but, you know, it's worth it because it's the rest of my life. That's the case for everybody, no matter what age you are, too. You know, that's what I say. You know, it applies to everybody. So, okay, thank you.